I'm all for it.
It's time to enjoy the comedy of the comedian Stewart. Your enthusiasm is misplaced because it's not quite finished yet, this show. The end of the first half's a bit wonky and the start of the second half. Turn that, right, that's exactly what I don't want to see, right? Phones on, okay? Right, turn them off, okay? I don't want to see any phones on, and I will see them if you get your, because they light up, okay, like that one just did there. That's the brilliant flaw in the design, isn't it? And they light up the bored face of the person you brought with you, who's already going, oh, I thought it was Lee Mack. So, if I see your phone light up again, or anyone's, I will come down where you are, right, and I will do my idea of banter with you. And I will get your phone off you, and I will bring it up here, and I'll go, oh, you can't be trusted with your phone, I'm going to have to put it backstage, but I'll put it on the stage, and I will smash it under that, okay? I will smash it, right, and you can take it up with the police, okay? And if you go, oh, hang on, mate, there's all photos of my kids from Christmas on there, I will be delighted, and I will take the shattered digital remnants of your Christmas family memories backstage at half-time, and I will wank on them. And I will laugh like the killer clown. I'll go, well, I'm doing it. And then I'll get all the wanked-on memories of your children at Christmas on your phone, and I'll put them in the toilet, and I will shit on them. Right, that's got everyone in a good mood, so let's move on. So, right, I started writing this show in June, and my idea was it was going to be a new show all about the role of the individual in a digitised free market society. I was going to base it around this image, basically, which you'll know, Caspar David Friedrich's 1818 German expressionist masterpiece, Wanderer Above a Sea of Fog. And I started writing this show, and then, of course, at the end of June, the Brexit happened. And everywhere I went, I found there seemed to be an expectation that I would say something about Brexit, and I haven't written anything about Brexit because I'm trying to write a show that I can keep on the road till April 2018. And as I don't know how the Brexit's going to pan out in that time, it doesn't make sense to write anything about it in case I don't end up being able to use it, right? So I'm not going to write anything about Brexit because I don't see the point of committing to a course of action for which there's no logical, financial or emotional justification. There's usually applause there, and then I do a little bit about that. It comes off the back of the applause, but I won't do that tonight. So it's already shorter. No, it's too late. In this business, you play the room as it lays. You have the misfortune of being in tonight's tardy, unenthusiastic, bewildered audience. The best bits of the show are going to disappear, but the other bits will take longer to get across. So normally there's applause there, and that gets everyone to me. And I come off the back of that, and I go, can it be that the... See, I am going to talk about Brexit. That's how that joke works, right? It's too late. When the applause is gone. We'll all be home soon on a Saturday night, thanks to you. So that's good, isn't it? So... The show's too long anyway, I think. It's better to have to drop lots of it because we're too stupid to understand it. Incidentally, if you've lost confidence in me because you're sitting next to an empty seat, don't, because what's happened there, right, is I've now achieved a level of fame whereby touts buy the seats, right, to resell them. But I'm not famous enough for anyone to want to buy them at 4 times the asked for price, right? So which is perfect for me, because it means the seats are sold, I get the money for them, but there aren't any people in them going, oh, what's this supposed to be about? That's actually, my ideal room is a load of paid for empty seats, that's the way I do it. Can it be, though, talking of the Brexit, that the future of Britain, if not the world, Europe, has been altered irreversibly because of the ongoing competitive rivalry of some posh men? It would seem so. When he was a student, David Cameron put his penis into a dead pig. to compete with him as an adult, to do something even more obscene and bewildering. Michael Gove put his penis into a Daily Mail journalist. Imagine doing that. And to compete with him, to do something even more shocking and sickening and weird. Theresa May put Boris Johnson into the role of Foreign Secretary. Is it just me, or do you ever wake up after a night's sleep and go, hang on a minute! Boris Johnson is the actual, genuine Foreign Secretary of Britain, a real place that actually exists. It's not a kind of comedy clown mascot Foreign Secretary who goes around the world being buffoonishly amusing while the real Foreign Secretary work is done by an unpaid immigrant locked in a bin. He's the actual, genuine Foreign Secretary of Britain, an industrialised nation in the developed world. For now, anyway. And if you think it's funny that Boris Johnson is Foreign Secretary, I guarantee you he will be Prime Minister by Christmas. Theresa May has been put in place by the Tory steering committee as a kind of palate cleanser, a sort of nasty tasting mouthwash that you swill around your gums before being forced to eat actual human shit. A lot of the key players disappeared in the Brexit fallout, didn't they? Michael Gove and Sarah Vine, they're currently trying to reinvent themselves, aren't they, as the celebrity political couple for young millennials so jaded they no longer find Neil and Christine Hamilton quite sickening enough. Michael Gove and Sarah Vine are the Neil and Christine Hamilton for the 2 girls, 1 cup generation. Niche joke there, everyone laughing. If you don't know what that is, Google it. Not now though. Now. So, we're living in a post-truth, post-fact era, according to the dictionary last week. So it's difficult to do anything about politics, politicians and things, because everything is shrouded. You can't do anything about facts, because facts don't exist. So you have to just say stupid, scatological insults, like the fact that I've noticed that Nigel Farage looks like the sort of person who, before masturbating, would put on a pair of driving gloves. Ideally made of calf skin, so that it felt like a calf was doing it. But it's interesting, I've been running this stuff in since the summer. I've been in Edinburgh for a month. Last week I did some tryouts in Cambridge, Bristol, mainly Remain voting cities, interestingly enough. And the Remain voting cities loom out of the map, don't they now, like fantasy citadels and Tolkien-esque landscape. Wondrous walled cities full of wizards and poets, people who could understand data. In the middle of a vast swampy wilderness with "Here there be trolls" written over it. Curly brain. Hang on a minute, Stu, trolls? No, that's no way to describe the English and Welsh majority that voted to leave Europe. And to be fair, it isn't, right? You can't really, generalise about these things. People voted to leave Europe for all sorts of different reasons, right? And it wasn't just racists that voted to leave Europe. Cunts did as well. Isn't that stupid fucking moronic cunts? Isn't that racist? And cunts. And people with legitimate anxieties about ever closer ties to Europe. Dear Miss Allen, please inform your client, Stewart Lee, who I had the misfortune of seeing last night, that I voted to leave Europe, and I am neither a racist nor a cunt. Merely someone with genuine anxieties about ever closer ties to Europe. Yours, a cunt. People, what a relief, there's a stony-faced woman in the front row just tipped at that point, so it wasn't that I said cunt, it was I didn't say it enough. You have to persist with these things. So, but people did vote to leave Europe for all sorts of reasons. Again, to be fair, not everyone that voted to leave Europe wanted to see Britain immediately descend into being an unaccountable single-party state, exploiting people's worst prejudices to maintain power indefinitely. Some people just wanted to have bendy bananas, didn't they? They only wanted bendy bananas, and now there's all this racism. Just wanted the bananas to be I mean, they were anyway, but I wanted them to stay bendy and not to have to be straight, and now there's all this racism. I've been happy with straighter bananas and less race hatred, to be honest, but never mind, anyway. But people voted to leave Europe for all sorts of reasons. The journalist Paul Mason was very good on this. He was in Cardiff the weekend before the vote, talked to people there, and a guy in Cardiff told Paul Mason that he was voting to leave Europe, and this is the quote, because you can't buy girls pink toys anymore, they have to be grey. Someone's reason there. Now, whatever your politics, right? We know what most of you are like if you managed to find out this is on. But whatever your politics, I only advertise in the Guardian and the London Review of Books, right? Whatever your politics, it is sad, isn't it, to think that the future of Britain, Europe, the world may have been altered as a result of a massively misunderstood, hugely exaggerated notion of political correctness that doesn't even exist. And if it did, which it doesn't, it wasn't being enforced by the Brussels pink toy office. Yeah. But whatever, we are leaving Europe now. Brexit means Brexit, and so the people of Wales will at last be free to buy whatever coloured girls' toys they want, although they will have £243 million a year less to spend on them. Right, there should be more laughs for that, because that's a good joke. So, no, it's a good, let's just, well it is, so let's just, don't shake your head up. Who's done the most, who knows the most about stand-up, me or you? It is a good joke, that, because it's properly, the £243 million, that's the detonate word in that joke. It's near the end where it should be. No, £243 million. Ha! That's what it should be. Okay, let's just see. Come on, because I've got months of this, so let's sort out the problems now. What is... No, I'm interested in what your problem is. Right. Okay, so why that's funny, right, that joke? It is, right? It's because £243 million, that is the amount per year by which the EU subsidise Wales, see? So if you'd known that, you'd find it funny. I know. And it's a shame, isn't it, that people didn't know more things, I think, before they were mistakenly allowed to vote. You know, if you can't understand a joke about Europe, you shouldn't be allowed to vote on it, I don't think. But a lot of people voted as a protest vote, voted to leave as a protest vote, which again, I do understand that. My best friend, Ian, voted to leave Europe as a protest vote. But I believe it was I who wrote... It wasn't me, it was in the Observer. I read it, I thought, that's good, I'll say that on stage. But I believe it was I who wrote, it was me. It's good when you can quote yourself as a source of authority. It saves having to do research. But I believe it was I who wrote a very interesting piece that I wrote. I believe it was I who wrote in the Observer. Someone read the column in the Observer. Oh, that's an interesting column. David Mitchell must be away. I believe it was I who wrote. I've never said that. I won't say that again. Actually, it's not in the age of Twitter, instant reportage. So I believe it was I who wrote. Wasn't it? I read it. I thought David Mitchell hasn't written. Oh, it's me. Good, yeah. So I believe it was I who wrote. Come on, I want to move on from this bit now. Get my trapped in a loop. I believe it was I who wrote. No, it wasn't me. I believe it was I who wrote. This is second half stuff normally. This one. I believe it was I who. No, it was me. I believe it was I who wrote Voting to leave Europe as a protest vote is a bit like shitting your hotel bed as a protest against bad service, and then realising you now have to sleep in a shitty bed. And my friend Ian, my best friend who voted to leave, he said, it doesn't make sense to you. You know the EU was institutionally flawed. You know that freedom of labour often led to the exploitation of labour. So your metaphor doesn't make sense because in a way there was already some shit in the bed. And I said, yes, Ian Wilson, that's his name, leave voter, don't forget it. I said to him, yes, Ian, but if there's already some shit in the bed, you don't fix that by doing even more shit into the already shattered bed. And my friend Ian said, no, you move to a different bed. And I said, yes, Ian, but what if, instead of some shit, that different bed has got Boris Johnson in it? And my friend Ian Wilson, gardening critic of the Daily Express, he reluctantly admitted he would remain in the original shitted bed. That little paragraph originally appeared in the Observer. As I say, the beauty of that being that it's discussed under the line there on the internet version by the Observer readers who spent most of their space there deciding whether the past participle of shit was shattered or shit. And that is in many ways the key audience for me, the target audience. But the Metropolitan Liberal elite, out-of-touch Metropolitan Liberal elite, didn't see that vote coming, did they? Because they're out of touch. Who are the Metropolitan Liberal elite? Well, according to Gary Bushell in the Daily Star, if you're in my audience, it's you, and I am massaging your worst prejudices. Again, normally there's a bigger laugh there tonight, or I feel a lot of you are going, yes, you are. I've come in error, I thought this was something else. A lot of people here, it's like a date, isn't it? It's already gone wrong, but you're wondering how long do you have to stay out of politeness. The Metropolitan Liberal elite. The Metropolitan Liberal elite are the sort of people who preferred the Labour Party in the 90s when they looked like a load of coke dealers at an advertising agency. As opposed to now, when it looks like Catweasel and his army of furious tramps. Fighting each other to the death over the last bottle of Diamond White. In the interests of balance. But I live in N16, North London, classic out-of-touch Metropolitan Liberal elite territory. This is how out of touch they were with the prevailing public mood. The weekend before the vote, someone I vaguely know sent out a tweet saying, don't worry about Brexit. I've just been out for brunch in a gastropub in Stoke Newington, and absolutely no one there's voting to me. So you had it coming, didn't you? All your spiralisers. But the Brexit vote has caused all sorts of trouble for people's jobs, hasn't it? Not least of all me. I am a content provider. There it is there. And I've spent the best part of 3 decades travelling the country, providing comedy content from a centre-left liberal position. The problem I've got now is I know any random group of people in any random town, 52% of them could have taken a position broadly against that line of thought. And the problem I've got now is the stuff I'm writing, the jokes need to be funny in of themselves rather than simply things that people agree with. You know, much more a new thing for me, really. And so, no, it's a problem, isn't it? How do you write a one-size-fits-all comedy show for a divided Britain? You know, you've got a bit, might get a round of applause on a Tuesday night in Oxford, Harrogate, Glasgow. Next night, Lincoln, glassed in the face. By a man with Amber Rudd's last Tory party conference speech tattooed along the full length of his erect racist penis. So it's difficult. I'm a week. Okay, this properly opened on Wednesday, this show, so I'm 4 days in, and I still don't really know what it is or what it's going to be. All I know is whatever this tour ends up being, the show will start with this sentence. So, my multiple British comedy and BAFTA award-winning BBC Two series got cancelled. Presumably because it was massively critically acclaimed and hugely exceeded audience ratings expectations, whilst also being incredibly cheap to make. Although I noticed there is money at the BBC for a remake of Are You Being Served? Educate, innovate, entertain. Those are the watchwords. But, of course, the irony of remaking Are You Being Served at the moment is that the British retail industry no longer exists. The new Are You Being Served should be sat in a massive Amazon delivery warehouse. Mrs. Slocum stands in a huge shed off the M6, making incomprehensible cat-based double entendres about her vagina to loads of massively underpaid and soon-to-be deported East European workers. You know what? When I wrote that joke 6 weeks ago, the phrase soon-to-be deported East European workers was an exaggeration for comic effect. No, okay, I'll tell you why that's funny. It's because in that period, Liam Fox has now decided to use the threat of deportation as a negotiating tool. And right, don't come and see me, right, if you don't know anything about anything, right? Because most of my jokes are about things, so you need to know what things are. Okay, I don't want to make a big deal about this all night, but you keep giving me the impression that you're sort of. It's moving ahead, and then we're just back to square one, right from that initial failure to applause where there normally is applause. It's one step forward, 2 steps back with you, to be honest. And this has been getting 5-star reviews, so if there's a problem in the room, it's not me, is it? Right, so... Okay, let's just... Right. I didn't used to do weekends. I thought we gave up on it. Sort of people kind of come out, oh, let's go to something. What is it? I don't know. If you go, is this it? When will it change? No, it's just like this. It stops at about 10 to 8, and then it starts again a bit later. Then it carries on the same, and then it stops. It's not this is what I do, you know. It's not, if you think, oh, it can't just be this. It is. Who even goes shopping now? Remember before that? Who even goes shopping now? Who even goes shopping now? No one, do they? No, for the sake of this joke. I'll tell you what, because you're a bit weird, right? I've got 4 possible punchlines to this joke, so I'll try them all out on you. Experiment on the gerbils of today. Who even goes shopping now? No one. Even former Chancellor George Osborne now has his anus pencils delivered by a cardo. Okay, not every morning. All right, okay, right. Okay, what is it you don't know about... Right, you know what a cardo is, don't you? George Osborne's anus pencils, is that the... Okay, to be fair, right, that news story's not really broken yet. Okay? There's a pocket of media inside there. Laughing journalist. I know, yeah, you know, don't you, mate? But most people don't. So, well, it's not really. God knows I've done my best to get the story out. You know. To the point where if you Google George Osborne now, one of the search options that comes up is pencils rumour. Right? So, I've done that. I've made that happen. But to be fair, right, that story's not really out there. So it's not really broken. So what we've learned, you can't do stand-up about news from the future. You know, that's not stand-up comedy, is it? That's like a prophecy. It's a thin line, I often think, though, between being a comedian and like a prophet. It's a line Jesus got on the wrong side of it. I'm not saying I'm Jesus, you know. That's for Brian Logan to say in The Guardian. Stewart Lee is a new Jesus. 4 stars. What do you have to do to get 5, Brian? Another one. Who even goes shopping now? No one. Even Keith Vaz now has his Romanian rentboys delivered by a cardo. Right, it's funny now. I've got to hold this show together till 2018. Will people remember that story? People forget, don't they? Do you remember this news story? In 2014, when Romania was going to join the EU, all the tabloids were complaining, weren't they, about Romanians coming over. Keith Vaz went down to Luton Airport, didn't he, to welcome in the Romanians personally. Doesn't seem such an altruistic gesture. The bloke checking out the talent on the way in. You can stay, and you can stay, and you can all stay at my house. So, here's another punchline. This is an evergreen one. This will work at any time of human history. Who even goes shopping now? No one. Even Michael McIntyre has all Paul Tonkinson's 90s routines delivered by a car. Come on, then sue me, come on. Who even goes shopping now? No one. Even X has Y delivered by a Cardo. See how that works, right? Next year, have a look at what's in the news. Put some nouns in. That's how satire works. Joke structure plus nouns equals satire. That's written on the wall at Have I Got News For You? Who even goes shopping now? No one, do they? Even they don't. No, even the they used to. No, even the charity shops are doing home deliveries now, aren't they? The Oxfam and they are. They're even the charity shops are doing home deliveries now. Have you noticed? I know they're not. All right. I'm getting into another bit. Impossible, isn't it? So, they are. They're doing home deliveries. The charity shops. So they are. So if you ever fancy getting 100 copies of the same Rufus Hound live stand-up DVD for £1, 1p each, you don't even have to leave the house now because as I've said, the charity shops are doing. You know what? The charity shops are doing home deliveries now. Yeah, that's how this kind of stand-up works. You advance an untenable point in an increasingly desperate tone of voice. They're doing home delivery now. They are. So if you ever fancy getting 100 copies of the same Lee Mack live stand-up DVD for £1, you don't even have to leave because the charity shops are doing home. They are. So if you ever fancy getting 100 copies of the same Paddy Keelty, no, he has. He's done 3 live DVD. Okay, forget that. You're not going with it. All right. The point is, it doesn't matter about the setup. The point is, all those 90s and noughties panel show acts, all their comedy DVDs are on Amazon and eBay, second-hand, for 1p, right? 0.01 pence, plus postage and packing, right? The cheapest that you can get mine. Listen, it's good. It's more than you think. The cheapest you can get my 2004 live stand-up DVD for second-hand on the internet is £3.67. Well, you can root, right, in a sarcastic way, but that is still 367 times more than all those other blokes, right? I may not be on TV anymore, but I am the £3.67 king of the obsolete physical media market. But to be fair, there is a reason for this, and it is this, right? I always sell DVDs and books and stuff after gigs, right? And the cheapest I can get that DVD for from the warehouse supplier is £3.50, right? So I normally have to put it on for a tenner because I have to pay 15 to 25% commission off that to most of the venues, 15% off the top to the promoters of the tour, that's 40%, that's £4 plus £3.50, that's £7.50, that leaves £2.50, but that profit, that is taxed 22% business rates for the tour. What is funny about just... that is some accountant going, ha ha ha. One idiot. He should have put the original DVD purchase through as a taxable expense. But what I'm saying is basically, on a £3.50 DVD sold for a tenner, I normally make about 60 to 80 pounds, right? When all told. So what I do is, when I get in from gigs, well, I can't sleep after gigs, right? Because I'm really awake because of the crazed adrenaline rush of doing this. Well, you laugh because I've been doing this a long time. I look very calm, but inside I'm on fire like the sun. And already tonight I've dealt in the moment with that initial point where you didn't applaud what people normally do. I did stuff off the back of that. I did a thing just then about the accountants laughing. I'm reacting all the time in the moment live to things. I am, the last half hour. I am. Well, I'll tell you why I looked then, because I looked to see how long I've been on, so I could say how long I've been on. Right, then that was a real thing happening, and that's not learn. That's not any strict, look at your watch, right? This is exciting. Now, I don't know what this is just making this up now. This, what I'm doing now, I'm talking about nothing off the top of my head, is more exciting than anything that you've done all year. It is. And that's why I'm up here like a sort of god, and you're down there like pigs in a ditch. Just like, no offence, but that's why it works. So that's why I can't sleep after gigs. I'm mad awake. So what I do, I go on Amazon about 2 in the morning, and I do 2 things. I look for Japanese and Turkish 70s funk records, which I collect, and I do, and I look around. I try and find that DVD, the 2004 live DVD, second-hand. And if I see it anywhere for less than £3.50, like £3.35, £3.40 or whatever, I buy it, put it in with the new one, make an extra 10 or 15 pence on each. I'm glad that you're so rich that you find that. Sometimes you get lucky. Normally it's individuals saying them, but sometimes, like there's this company, Magpie, they had 20 of it at £3.40, and I bought them all. And the bloke put a sarcastic note in, Rick from Magpie, he put, ha ha, how embarrassing, buying your own DVD second-hand on the internet. But the joke's on them, because I made £2 clear. It's the same with the books, right? The last but one book I did, the cheapest I can get that from Faber and Faber, from the actual publisher, is £3.75, right? But you know Fob, the discount place, there's one in Cambridge Circus over there, they have it for £3 or 2 for a fiver, £2.50. I know, which is £1.25 less than I can get it at source. They're selling it for £1.25 less than I can even get it from the publisher. So what I do when I'm on tour with the van, I go in any town where there's a fight, and I buy all the copies of my own book, and I do something. And in Bristol, the bloke in Bristol Fob, he loves it every year. He laughs his head off and helps us load the van up with it. Again, the joke's on him, because I'm making £1.25 extra on each. Do you find this embarrassing now? Because you're it adds up, you know, over the year. I've got a house now, right? I'm not out on BBC rates. But so, in Edinburgh, I do a month in Edinburgh every August. I don't even get any books sent up there, because there's a fob on Rose Street, just by the venue. So on the way to the gig, I just buy all the books from Fob. And then I get to the gig and I take the stickers off, where it says 2 for £5. And I have a little cloth with white spirits on it. You have to go for glue stain off. You can leave a little glue stain. Otherwise, did you get these at Fob? I don't know. Ridiculous. I know I would do that. So that's what I used to do. I can't do that anymore though, and this is true. Because Fob, Edinburgh, have sent out an internal memo to staff saying I'm not allowed to buy my own books. They'll let me buy 3, and that's all. It's like the police, 3 is for personal use, any more you're a dealer. So it's not really that the DVD is £3.67. What's happened is I'm like a sort of corrupt banker. I've driven up the market price of my commodity by sort of artificially massaging the market and driven up the sort of stock market value of it. To be fair to Jimmy Carr, say, whose DVDs are 1p on Amazon, right? He's not awake, is he, at 2 o'clock in the morning, trying to buy his own DVDs on Amazon to resell off a trestle table in a provincial arts centre. Imagine if he was. Imagine if Jimmy Carr was on Amazon at 2 in the morning, trying to buy something that he never paid the tax on what he got paid for doing from a company that don't pay their tax either. Is it possible to imagine a more tax-avoiding transaction than Jimmy Carr buying his own DVDs second-hand on Amazon? Only if he found them using Google on a Vodafone phone. whilst paying Gary Barlow to spit cold Starbucks coffee into his splayed hands. It's not a single taxable juncture in the entire transaction. If you're near the front, or you had a look on the way in, you can see my whole set is made of other comedians' second-hand DVDs. And the idea was I was going to put one in line, then I was going to put sort of Hessian over them and make them look like those rocks there. But I sort of gave up on the idea in the end because I abandoned that sort of story. But also, I'm not trying to take the piss out of other comedians by making the set out of their DVDs. It's just that other comedians' live stand-up DVDs are now the cheapest building material in the Western world. Look at this, tragic, isn't it? A sort of tide mark of late capitalism, isn't it? Just sort of a detritus of the consumer society all washed up on the beach, you know. But it makes me think about what is stand-up supposed to be now? What am I supposed to say to the audiences of divided Britain? What content am I supposed to provide? And what format am I supposed to deliver it in? Physical media is over, apparently, we're told. The government's trying to dismantle the BBC. So, actually, after the second series I did for the BBC, I got offered 2 series by Sky for more money than the BBC. But I didn't go to Sky, and I stayed at the BBC for less money. And I've not talked about this on stage before, because I think if you make a moral choice about something, that is a private thing, and you shouldn't crow it from the rooftops to try and get publicity for yourself. But since I started talking about this on stage last week, Sky actually got in touch with my agent. They've got the legal team onto her and said that I wasn't to talk about how Sky had offered me more money than the BBC, because they never had, right? And she went through all the paperwork from 8 years ago and found all the stuff where they did do that, right? So they went away. But it's interesting indication of what a pariah I am in entertainment, isn't it? That a broadcaster would take legal action to prevent anyone knowing that they ever tried to offer me work. Well, I didn't. It's good though, it's given me an extra bit of material, so it's funny. But I didn't go to Sky partly because I knew it wasn't really me that they wanted at Sky. They don't care about me. It was you they wanted. You, the sort of ABC One, broadsheet reading, theatre going audience. Because I'm not going to do a hands up, but I don't suppose the majority of you are Sky subscribers. You might have objections to various things about it, but I'm not going to ask for a show of hands because it's awkward. It would be a bit like if I were to say to you, oh, you know that heart-rending David Attenborough film of the snow goose chicks falling to their deaths off the 500-metre high rock stacks in Greenland? Who's masturbated to that? That's what it'd be like to say who's got Sky, wouldn't it? Be awkward. But I knew it wasn't me. They wanted you watching Sky, the ABC One audience, because they wanted to sell and advertise the things you like on Sky, you know, like cappuccino and spiralisers and Milan Kundera novels, the things that you like, you know. Because if you look at Sky at the moment, all that's advertised is knives, bin bags and masking tape. The other problem, of course, if you're a vaguely political comedian, you can't really go on Rupert Murdoch's Evil Sky because you'll be held accountable. Steve Coogan can't really go on Rupert Murdoch's Evil Sky because he's hacked off. Steve Coogan, he's involved in an ongoing dispute with Rupert Murdoch. That's how much I know about what I'm talking about. It's a problem. I've spent too long with you. Right? He's involved in an ongoing dispute with Rupert Murdoch, Steve Coogan, for stealing used condoms out of his bins and paying Eamon Holmes to sniff which women have used them. Well, you know what? You can go, right. But look at Eamon Holmes, right? He looks terrible, he doesn't know anything, and he can't speak. What secret skill has he got that's keeping him in a job, right? Alan Partridge, the fictional character, can go on Sky, but Steve Coogan can't. And I wish I could go on Sky. I would like to go on Sky now for the money, right? But I can't. Because the character of Stewart Lee that I've created would have liberal moral objections to going on Sky, right? And I'm coming to hate the character of Stewart Lee. I I'm coming to despise the character of Stewart Lee in the same way as Rod Hull came to hate Emu. I even hate this, what I'm saying now. Smug, metatextual, self-aware shit. What's wrong with proper jokes? That's what I say to me. Russell Howard's not involved in an ongoing interrogation of the divided self, is he? No, he's not. He's going, oh, we've all done it. You run out of toilet roll, you use a sock. I've not seen his act, I just keep seeing this little clip that goes round on the telly at night. We've all done it. You run out of toilet roll, you use a sock, do you? His own clothing. for his excrement. What is this? Observational comedy from a Victorian mental hospital? We've all done it. You wake up in the morning, throw ice water over you, you go, ah! Then the gentry come round and they laughing, smashing you in the face with their canes, and then in the afternoon you're chained to a bedspread, sexually assaulted, you're trying to escape. We've all done it. You know. I'd go and see that, it'd be good. All the young comedians, all the under 30, 20-something comedians, they go to me, mate, why have you got Russell Howard, mate? Come on, mate, stop having a go at Russell Howard, mate! Oh, come on, stop having a go at my mate! Oh, mate, come on, mate! Mate, why are you having a go at Russell Howard, mate? It's way beyond bats, what you've done. Come on, mate! Oh, mate! Mate, why are you having a go at Russell Howard, mate? Oh, mate! It's really out of order, that banter. It's really out of order, mate. Oh, mate! Mate, you having a go at Russell Howard, mate? Mate! Oh, mate! Mate! Oh, mate! Mate, you having a go at Russell Howard, mate? Oh, mate! 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 Oh, mate! Mate, you having a go at Russell Howard, mate? Mate! They all stick up for him because they all live free in houses that he owns. Right? Do you know what? I'm sick of this. I did one joke about Russell Howard 10 years ago, right? Admittedly, it was 55 minutes long. But I did, you know, right? Okay. I liked him, right? I liked him, to be honest. It wasn't even about anything. I hate him now. And it's not even his fault. It's nothing. It's completely unfair. It's nothing to do with him. But the reason it's to do with me. The reason I hate Russell Howard is this, right? My family, okay, they don't read the sort of papers where I get good reviews, right? And they don't know the sort of people who would like me, right? And so if they ever see me live or see a bit of film with me, they think it's so bad. And they're sick-makingly embarrassed by how bad they think it is. And they can't believe that I can possibly be making a living out of this. Right? And they talk to me about stand-up in the tone of voice that suggests I'm someone who's sort of mentally disturbed and wrongly imagines that they're a stand-up comedian. And if they were to find out that they weren't, would have a sort of breakdown. So they sort of go, hello, how's the stand-up comedy going that you do? That's what you do, isn't it? Is that going well? Your comedy that you do? And I go, yeah, I'm in a run at Leicester Square Theatre till February. I'm sure you are. I'm sure lots of people are coming, and they're all laughing, and all the seats are full, aren't they? I go, well, they're not full, but that's because a lot of them are bought by touts who try to sell them for 4 times the price. Yes, and people are all buying those, aren't they? Good. Yes, well done. And the worst one is my stepbrother. He's a nice bloke, okay, he's 55, right? And when he saw me live, he thought it was so bad. He was really, really awkward afterwards. He was so embarrassed. He hated it so much. But to be fair, the only thing he's ever seen live, apart from me, was in 1986 at Oxford Polytechnic. He saw Deacon Blue. So he sees me and he goes, it wasn't like Deacon Blue at all. I don't know what it was supposed to be. It was nothing like Deacon Blue. And so he rings me up and he goes, hello, how are you? I go, how's your stand-up going that you do? I go, that's good, I've just done a week at the South Bank Centre. Yes. Well, I'm sure you did, and I bet everyone was laughing, weren't they? And I said to him, you sound in a good mood. He goes, I am. I said, why? And he said, well, we've been very lucky, he said. We've just managed to secure, 18 months in advance, 2 tickets to a sold-out show at the Royal Albert Hall to see our favourite comedian, Russell Howard. And I went, like that. And he went, you sound surprised. And I said, well, you know, I've just never met an adult that would be going for it. He goes, don't you think he's any good then? I went, yeah, he's fine, he's good. And he goes, oh yes, as opposed to you, the most critically acclaimed stand-up in Britain. And I thought, well, you can't say it yourself though, can you? It seems arrogant. Right, I didn't really know how to end this first half. I had this idea that I would get some Deacon Blue music, play it in the half, and do a little bit about Deacon Blue running up to it, right? So I went on the internet and I found the first Deacon Blue album, Raintown, on this Music Magpie site for 69p. I could teach them a thing or two about reputation management. There's no need for it to be 69. There's 6 of them. They could do it in shifts, working the site. Anyway. So I ordered it, and then this email comes back from Rick at Music Magpie. He says, we are sorry to inform you that Raintown by Deacon Blue, order 203-2917-358, has failed its final quality inspection. And I emailed back and said, I just need to play the CD in the interval of my show. I'm Stuart Lee, the comedian, so don't worry if the case is cracked or anything. And then Rick wrote back, no, not its physical quality inspection, its musical quality. Deacon Blue's mix of soulful singer-songwriter sensibilities and plastic mid-80s production values has not aged well. But, he said, checking our algorithms, he said, I noticed most people that buy your live DVDs are fans of Turkish and Japanese folk. So, I've prepared you a bespoke CDR to play in the interval. So I'm a victim of an algorithmically generated joke. Here it is. So, you know, right at the start I said I was trying to write this show that was supposed to be about this, the individual in the digitised free market, blah blah, and I couldn't do it because everyone thought I should talk about Brexit. So I did a bit about Brexit, and then I got it back on track. I don't know if you noticed, but it was broadly to do with those things. And then, So that was going all right. Then last week, I was sort of putting the second half together, and then America voted for Trump. And all last week, it seemed to feel the audiences expected me to talk about America voting for Trump. I'm not going to write anything about America voting for Trump, because I'm trying to put together a show that I can keep on the road till April 2018. And as I don't know how America voting for Trump is going to work out, there's no point writing anything about America voting for Trump, because I might not be able to use it in the show. So I'm not going to write anything about America voting for Trump, because I don't see the point of committing to a course of action for which is no logical financial justification. More claps than laughter there, to be fair. I don't mind, I'm post-laughs now. Just like the sound of people approving of... You know, did you see Stuart Lee at Leicester Square? Yeah. Was it funny? No, but I agreed the fuck out of it. It's almost as if it was targeted at my exact demographic. In an cynical attempt to create a future-proof audience for mortgage repayment purposes. That's the bit I normally do at the start of the first half, that I dropped, because there was no applause, you see. Brought it back to here. So basically, you're an hour behind the average audience in terms of your review. But is it just me, or do you ever wake up in the morning and hang on a minute? Donald Trump is the actual president of the United States. He's not some kind of comedy clown mascot president of the United States, going around the world being buffoonishly amusing, while the real president of the United States work is done by an unpaid Mexican immigrant locked in a dumpster. He is the actual, genuine president of the United States of America, a real place that exists, an industrialised nation in the developed world at the moment. But there's been a lot of generalising about Americans who vote for Trump, but you can't really generalise about Americans who vote for Trump. Americans vote for Trump for all sorts of reasons, and it wasn't just racists that vote for Trump. Cunts do as well. Fucking American cunts. The worst kind of cunts around. Much worse than our British cunts that Of course, not all Americans who voted for Trump wanted to see America descend into being an unaccountable, single-party state, exploiting people's worst prejudices to maintain power indefinitely. Some people just wanted to be able to wear their Ku Klux Klan outfits to the supermarket. But we're told now, don't worry about Trump, don't worry about the Trump, the misogynist, homophobic, racist bigot who thinks that global warming is a Chinese hoax. Don't worry about him, they say, because the real decisions are going to be made by his deputy, Mike Pence, a racist, homophobic, misogynistic, born-again Christian bigot who thinks that homosexuality is a Chinese hoax. Difficult, isn't it? Difficult. That country's split, just like our country. It's difficult, isn't it, to know how to pitch the material. What are you supposed to do? Who am I now in this post-fact era? What am I supposed to say? I'm an ex-TV comedian, right? But I'm not forgotten enough to make a comeback. If I was, this wouldn't be it, would it? In a cellar at 7 o'clock in the evening, I would at least aim to be above ground. That would be my But it's difficult to know what to talk about. The thing is, we now live in a sort of information-fragmented society. Everyone can follow their own little versions of truth down different wormholes. There isn't a kind of collective consciousness anymore. And people look back nostalgically to in 1978, a single episode of Morecambe Wise on the BBC got 28 million viewers, the most amount of people that have ever watched anything. And this is sort of held up as this example of an apogee of, social cohesion. But it doesn't really prove anything, because back then there was no DVDs to watch, there was no internet, and there were only 3 TV channels. And on the other 2 channels was a documentary about Canada and a painting of a clown sitting near a blackboard. And that got 27 million views. That doesn't really tell you anything, you know. And young people today, they will boast to you, won't they, about how they're not part of a collective experience. They don't even have terrestrial television now, the young people. I don't even have terrestrial television anymore, mate. I didn't know what that is. I mean, just watch the internet, Netflix, Sky subscription cable channels. I don't even know what the terrestrial television. I don't even have the thing that you need to get that. I don't even have any eyes for seeing it. I just have stuff shot into my brain through a ray from space. I don't even know. You might have the internet, Netflix, Sky subscription cable channels, Stu. There's some really, really good stuff on the internet, Netflix, Sky. You know, it's really good. It's not just loads of graphic novels from the 90s adapted really badly. English public school boys playing hard-bitten New York cops. There's all sorts of... There's some really good stuff, actually, mate. There's some really good stuff on Netflix internet subscription Sky channel. There's Game of Thrones, Stu. Have you seen that? Yeah, Game of Thrones. Have you seen that? It's really good, actually. It's the most popular... It is, Stu. It's really good. It's really good, Game of Thrones. Yeah. It's not just about a gnome, Stu. No. He's a dwarf anyway, you're racist. It's really good actually, Stu, It's really good, Game of Thrones. It's not for children, no, Stu. It's not like Harry Potter. No. There is magic in it, yes, there is magic in it. But, you know, what I would say is, what is magic anyway? You know, it's just like magic's maybe just like a science that we don't understand yet. You know, once upon a time, people would have been scared of a sandwich toaster. You know what I mean? So it's really good, Stu, the Game of Thrones. It's really, I don't know when it's set, Stu. I don't know when it's set. Could be in the past. Could be in the future after Brexit, I don't know. There's a big wall across the north of the country. No one's got any Toblerone. So it could be after Brexit. It's really good actually, Stu. No, it's really good, Game of Thrones. It's not just about a magic dragon flying around with a hat on. It's really good, Stu. It is. Game of Thrones is really good because it's really clever actually, Stu, because Game of Thrones is about, you know, politics and history and things like that. Game of Thrones? Peter Stringfellow's Lord of the Rings? Bilbo Baggins and the Spearmint Rhino? Have you actually watched it? No, I haven't watched Game of Thrones. Because I can get the same experience from sitting around with a Terry Pratchett novel in one hand and a copy of Hustlers barely legal in the other. Have you actually watched Game of Thrones, mate? It's really good. No, I haven't watched Game of Thrones. If I want to understand the ongoing clash of dynastic powers while simultaneously being mildly sexually aroused, I'll forcibly dress David Starkey in agent provocateur underwear and pay him to pole dance with Simon Sharma. Have you actually watched Game? No, I haven't watched Game of Thrones. I have not watched Game of Thrones, and I shall never watch Game of Thrones. I shall take no wife, hold no lands, father no children. I shall wear no crown and win no glory, and I shall not watch Game of Thrones. Yeah, you like that, don't you? You know what? I don't even fucking know what that is. Listen to Game of Thrones fans. I copied that off the side of a mug in HMV. And I don't even know what it is, okay? You can do 10 minutes on Game of Thrones, and all you need to know is something you read on a mug. Right, that's all you need to know. You actually watched Game. No, I haven't watched Game of Thrones. If I want to understand the ongoing clash of dynastic powers while simultaneously being barely semi-tumescent, as usual, I'll read Tolstoy's War and Peace while sitting over the wheel arch of a diesel-powered double-decker bus. Yes, mate, old school, analogue. All the old fellas in tonight. The old days was bad, wasn't it? There's no internet then, just go on the bus. Hey, I've got a joke for you, right? I've got a joke for you. Do you know, I'll tell you what, there's so many naked young women in the Game of Thrones. Just checking back there for the old PC brigade. Lurking in the wings, Gary Lineker's Stasi thought police. I'll tell you what, there's so many naked young women in the Game of Thrones. It's hardly surprising, madam, what stunted Tyrion Lannister's growth. We're wanking, ladies and gentlemen. He wanked himself into being a dwarf. He was 6'6" in the pilot episode. Hang on a minute, Stu. Wasn't that a sizist joke about the dwarf community? Yes, it was! But I ridiculed the dwarf community in order to satirise the ongoing sexual exploitation of young women in mainstream media, so it cancels it out. It's the kind of split-second collateral damage decision Frankie Boyle has to make every time he opens his mouth. Who decides, Stu? Who is the moral arbiter of right and wrong in stand-up comedy? Who is the self-appointed sole judge of morality in stand-up? It's me, I am. It's been me for about 15 years now. Not changing anytime soon. But here was an interesting thing, wasn't there? Case in point, digitised free market society. I did a sort of joke about the opening titles of Game of Thrones, supposedly one of the most watched programmes in the world, and only a tiny minority of the 500 of you here tonight got that, and yet we're told it's a massive thing. So what are you know, because they can pursue their own interests down a little filter of knowledge. So what are you supposed to talk about? And who am I talking to? I don't know. When I started out in the 80s, I lived in a shared house, did a temp job all day, and the sort of people in the little clubs were sort of the same, but now I'm nearly 50, I own a house. I never thought I would be the sort of person that owned a house. I've got a garden, and as if to drive home the disparity of society, the random unfairness of it, the lack of common ground, there's a homeless guy sometimes beds down the other side of my garden fence in the council flats garages. And sometimes I think I should invite that homeless man in to live with me. That's what Russell Brand would do. For a day. If there was a film crew present. Again, mixed response, isn't there? There's loads of people. Well, there's loads of people there. You know, I'm not sure. Then down here, there's right. Yeah, fucking get in. By all means, right, have a good laugh at Russell Brand. If you've ever done anything, and that is the key to this, I suppose, isn't it? Because whatever you think of Russell Brand, he did something, didn't he? Right? And what he did was shit. Absolute load of fucking shit. And it made everything worse, didn't it? This not voting idea, that worked out well, hasn't it, in retrospect, not voting. I blame young people for that, by which I mean people under 40. I hope there's none here. I'm under 40, I like Russell Brand. I'm disillusioned. I didn't vote. Yeah. Oh, I've got no future now. Never mind. I've got this phone. I'm 34. I like Pokemon Go. I'm 34, and in the morning I don't eat bread for breakfast like an adult. I I suck drinking yogurt out of a pouch. I'm under 40, this is me on the bus in the morning. People under 40, what a shower of shit, aren't they? What a shower of shit. You like stupid fads, don't you? The under 40s. A Japanese cat drawn on a satchel, that's what you like, isn't it? You collect that, don't you? Get up early, get down Donster Market. Why? The Japanese cat satchel man's coming. You've got hundreds of satchels with Japanese cats on, mate. I know, but it might be a different coloured face. Get down, the Japanese cat satchel man's coming. People under 40. Bondage, sex, and S&M and fetishism, that's their new fad, isn't it? The under 40s. I think they fucking invented it because they read it in 50 Shades of Grey or they saw it in a FKA Twigs video. I know who he is actually, so... this is so typical of the under 40s. If you're like nearly 50 and you make a joke about something from popular culture, they go, oh, you don't know what that is. Well, I do know who he is, FKA Twigs. I do actually. A lot of these people don't, I do. He's a rapper from Gloucester, isn't he? FKA Twigs. Yes. You don't know, do you? You don't know where he's from. You're laughing at me. He's from Gloucester, and he does a video where all string goes round him like bondage, and he has to wriggle out of it. He does. I've seen it. I've seen his video. I've seen it on. Not Top of the Pops. What is it now? What is it now? The internet. I've seen it on there. It's like Top of the Pops, isn't it, the internet? It's full of pop music and sexual predators. Now you thinking at the under 40s, S&M and bondage. I'm 33, I like S&M and bondage. I had a mask on and some jam went on me. Remember proper bondage sex? I'll keep this now, like this. Remember proper bondage sex that we used to have, yeah? In the 80s, in the 70s, in the 50s, people's parents that have come on. Proper, you know, not like now. People go, I love you, get under the duvet where it's warm and I'll hurt you. Proper, in the old days. Proper, violent, degrading, awful. You know, if you weren't dead at the end of it, you'd done it wrong. You had to do it again, didn't you? Over and over again until you were dead. And today, all the people under 40 go, I'm 37, I like S&M and bondage. A feather went on my bum. Did it? Well, you asphyxiated in a career-ending accident? No, shut up then. Drink your fucking pouch of yogurt, get a fucking cafe satchel bag, and fuck off. And that is my message to the young people of Britain. But joking apart, right? Yeah, I was joking all through that. I took an exaggerated position for comic effect. I've been doing it all night. A little peek for you there, behind the wizard's curtain. Oh, behind the wizard's curtain, what's behind there tonight? Forget it, we'll leave it. Behind the wizard's curtain. No, okay. So, no, I'm trying to work on an idea for daytime television. But joking, you've been very good. You know what? You've really, after a slow start, you've really picked up. At half time, I know what's happened. All the people that were brought along with friends who were a bit suspicious, they've had a little chat at the bar with their friends, haven't they? And they've gone to them, do you like it? Do you think it's good? And the friend that brought them has gone, yes, I do. And then you've gone, oh, I do as well then. made me sick of cowardice of it. You stick to your guns. So, that's exactly what's happening. I can tell from the way you're laughing. I tell you what, I say that about 50% of the time at gigs, that to get it moving. It doesn't normally feel so true as it does now. There's always a time, no, that's what you did. Don't come and see me, I don't want you in here. You traitorous hypocrite. Don't bring your friends, right? We'll manage without them. It's sold out. Those empty seats are touts, like I said. Don't bring your friends. It's better without them. Bring people. They don't, you know what, only the awkward, won't it? Next time you meet, the awkward, don't bring them. So, they don't need your help, it's patronising, right? You must help him out, because his series has been cancelled, so let's take some people. Oh, fucking charity! So... But joking apart, yeah, even something like bondage, S&M, fetishism, choose some random mad thing like that, even the way, if you look at how that's consumed and marketed and whatever and accessed now, as opposed to 20 years ago before the internet took off, even that tells us a lot about how society's changed in a free market, in a digitised time. I mean, 20 years ago, if you wanted to get into the fetish scene, right, for a start, you'd have had to buy time out, right? It wasn't just thrown away free, like litter. But it was, you'd have had to buy it and look in the classifiers and go, ooh, go to this shop. You go to some weird shop down Soho that's not there anymore. It's been knocked down now, and there's luxury flats. And there's a little blue plaque saying, former home of Spankuland. A little plaque, Spankuland was the flat. Welcome to Spank Towers. Named up, anyway. So you go in there and there'll be some bloke and they go, what? The man leaving there, they become too excited when they thought of it. And yes, I remember Spankuland. I just must go to the toilet quick. So I think I've left my hat at the... You'd go in there, wouldn't you, mate? Oh, he's gone. You'd go in there. It's the only, for him, this is observational comedy, for the rest of it, it's fantasy. You go in there and some bloke go, what? And you go, where's this club? And it'll take a year, and after 2 years networking, you end up at some night at the Clink or something. It was things like that then, being a record collector or anything, it was, any subculture, it was hard to sort of access. Whereas now, one of you could decide now to get I'd like to be into S&M and bondage. You could go home tonight, go on Amazon, click, 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 next day delivery, Taiwanese face fist or something like that. What's this? Oh, it's my Taiwanese fisting thing. I didn't know you were into that. Yes, I am as of yesterday. Or you could go up to the high street, couldn't you, to Primark, to the 5th floor S&M department. You buy the electric razor pants. Yes, here you are. Made in a sweatshop in Birmingham. So it doesn't mean anything, does it? It doesn't mean anything, and nothing does in the same way. Because everything is so instant gratification, everything's about the consumer, everything's monetised, so it doesn't have the same... and if you talk to your grandparents, or your great-grandparents, about trying to do S&M and fetish stuff, the bondage things, in the 30s, in the Depression, or in the 40s, when there was Hitler and these sorts of characters. It was very different, but I think it meant more to them because it was... it meant more, I think, than anything you will ever understand, because you never will have that, I remember talking to my granddad about it, and in the... in the 30s, if you wanted to do, like, sadism and masochism stuff in the 30s, they lived in Kidderminster. Dead people still live there now, but you couldn't just go, up the high, you could just go out to the Ann Summers in the High Street, could you, in 939, and go, can I have a deluxe latex bondage sex harness? There was nothing like that. Well, there wasn't, and what they used to do, yes, imagine that. There wasn't like This is exactly my point. You can't conceive of it, can you? What they would do, you couldn't get a bondage sex harness from the shops. They used to walk. They used to get on their feet and walk miles in bare feet, bleeding feet, all round, looking on the floor in the fields for just bits of twine or bits of a horse's reins that had perished, string, anything. They'd tie all those together and they would make their own bondage sex lines. And very often it would break immediately, but it didn't matter because they had made it themselves. Yeah. Make, do and mend, that was the time. And a litter sex harness that you'd made yourself, that would mean more to them, I think, than probably any single thing any of you have now, because it's all just like, this doesn't have any meaning to it, does it? Because it's just, I've got this, you know. And that's how they did so they didn't want to do S&M a lot of the time. They felt like they should, you know, to defy Hitler. Take back control. I don't think you'll never understand what things meant then. You know, I remember talking to my gran about it, and she said, you know, well, I did, you know, and I did talk to her about it. And then, you know, in the 30s, if you wanted to do fetish sex stuff, you know, you couldn't just go on Amazon and go click and order a, you know, deluxe latex zip-up gimp mask. You couldn't do that. What they used to do, right, where there wasn't any Amazon. They would walk miles south from Kidderminster, all down where the M5 is now, and they only had, you know what I mean, down there, you know, towards Evesham, the Vale of Evesham, the fruit basket of England, where all the vegetables and fruit come from. They would walk around there in their bleeding bare feet, and if they found a potato barn, they'd go in there, get the potato sack, empty all the potatoes out, cut eye holes in it. And that was their sex mask, a potato sack with... Well, it was, yeah, it was. It was a potato sack with eyes cut in it. And you know what? A potato sack sex mask that they'd made is better than anything that you have now. It has more meaning than any... Okay, what's the best thing you own? Oh, Stu, it's a picture that we took of my daughter half an hour after she was born. It's meaningless, isn't it? Potato sack sex mask. It is, because what did you do with this precious picture? You sent it out immediately, didn't you, to 200 people in your address book, 100 of whom you don't really know, 50 of whom you don't like, and every time it landed, 200 times, a layer of meaning is shaved off that image, isn't it? Until it's just nothing, just a gossamer thin, meaningless tissue image of the supposed highlight of your life, and it is nothing compared to the feelings of meaning and pride that someone would have had getting a sack of potatoes off the floor and cutting eye holes in it to have some weird sex. That is better than a picture of your child when it's been born, because you ruined it. You've made it meaningless, like everything that you have now. You know, these are the old stories they used to tell us. Like a lot of you, I used to think, I must tape all these old stories before I die and get them down. But you never get round to it, did you? I did tape all these old stories, I taped them all. But when my stepbrother moved in the 80s, I taped a Deacon Blue album over there. So I may have remembered them wrongly somewhere. But it's different times, and I think the experiences meant more, because that's the point I'm making. Experiences meant more because of they were hard. I mean, in the 40s, you know, suppose Grandad's in a good mood. He wants to have sex to celebrate something, maybe the bombing of Dresden or something. Come on, let's have S&M fetish sex. Come on, Gran. Not his own Gran. He's not sick. His wife, my Gran. He's a sexual adventurer. He's not a criminal. But it was different then. In the 40s, you know, there was no Ann Summers deluxe strawberry flavoured sex lubricant gel. Nothing like that. No. That wasn't what they had. They just had a big lump of dripping on a... And this was kept in the pantry in the outhouse on a marble slab to keep it cool. The dripping, remember dripping? Dripping on your bed. And they would... Gran would bring the dripping in and she'd go, yes, dripping. And she... Just grow up, boy. Just think about, instead of sneering, think about how lucky you are and about how people had to... She'd bring the dripping in and she'd say, you get the fire going, because we'll have to put the dripping in the skillet to melt it down, because they couldn't have a hard... And they would get undressed, they'd get undressed. And it wasn't like now, where you go, let's do bondage sex, put the central heating on in case it's cold. It wasn't, they lived in a ruined stone hovel, basically, where the floor was just straw and mud, and there was all pigs and chickens in there, running around, traumatised by what they were seeing. Two people, naked, all covered in flea bites and weeping sores, with a potato sack sex masks on, scratching their faces, crying, coughing up blood, but doing it anyway, doing the S&M sex in the face of all that, trying to maintain arousal in the face of all this. For Britain, they did it for England. You never understand what that would mean now. And Gran would go in the cellar, and Grandad would go down in the cellar to get the coal, and he'd be in the coal in the dark in the cellar, freezing and crying with all blood foaming out of his mouth, and the potato sack sex mask scratching him, giving him X-ray, every time he moved. Trying to maintain a state of tumescence in the face of all this, but doing it nonetheless. And then he would get the coal and put it all in the fire, and Gran would go, now, she'd say, before we put the dripping on, she'd say. And she'd say this same thing every time. Every time we heard this story, we'd hear this little... And that was our favourite. We wanted to just hear this bit of it with that story. Come on, Gran, we go, say the dripping thing. She'd go, no, people don't want to hear about those old days. Come on, Gran, say the dripping thing. No. Round the table, Christmas Day, all the kids. Dripping. Say the dripping thing. Gran, come on. Dripping, no. Oh, all right. What she used to say to him was, she'd go, now here's the dripping, she'd say. But remember, before we melt it, as well as being a sex lubricant for your pleasure, this dripping is also your dinner. And they would have to make a choice. And it's not a choice that any of your generation, particularly younger people, will ever have to make or will ever understand. It was a choice between the pursuit of selfish pleasure and the most basic human survival. That was the choice they had to make. Well, it was so. But my granddaddy told me that often, even if they did pursue the pleasure route, if they were careful, they could usually scrape together for their tea. But we look back on those times, don't we? And, it's not true that, it's mainly... Some of it's true, but some of it has changed. They didn't live in Kidderminster. They lived near Alf Church. Do you know Alf Church? Yeah. So, other than that, it's true. But but there's the thing, isn't there? There's some people, 80 years back, and the way they met each other, didn't they? They had a sexual relationship, they had a romantic relationship. Now, even the most basic things about our humanity, how we meet people, how we reproduce, has been commodified, digitised, hasn't it, by something like the Tinder, for example, an online dating. And I know loads of people that have made great relationships out of it, but in essence, what the online dating does is it reduces your potential partner to a set of precise specifications for you, the consumer, the customer in this relationship. Everything's been made into a consumer relationship, every aspect of life monetised. I wonder if we're missing a little bit about the randomness of life. When I started doing this in London in the 80s, I was working with tryout spots 6 months, so you don't meet anyone. So I went on the Dateline, which was before the internet dating. You got sent a form and you had to tick what your interests were. And one of the interests you could tick in the box was jazz stroke folk. Which I remember thinking was a bit weird, because all the other interests, hill walking, wine tasting, classical music, disco, cars, they all had their own box that you could tick on its own. But jazz and folk have been put together. I sort of know what they were thinking. They were sort of thinking, oh, you know, those people. It doesn't make sense, does it? Because folk music, in essence, is about taking an ancient and existing lyric, melody, story, and not encouraging the performer to bring their own ego or interpretation to bear on it, so that it is passed on unchanged and unaltered for future generations. Whereas jazz music, in contrast, is about taking an existing melody and then inviting the performer to alter it beyond all recognition through the use of improvisation, a process quite the diametric opposite of the folk procedure. So I didn't tick that box, I just wrote all that in it really tiny. And that is what caught the eye of the woman who went on to become my first wife. She was a jazz folk musician. And she was profoundly depressed because she realised she was trying to combine two incompatible approaches to the ultimate detriment of both. And I sympathised with her, because at the time I was in a double act with Richard Herring. But there were a number of problems with being married to a jazz folk musician. Not least of all, I never knew if we were going to have jazz sex, a wildly improvisatory procedure that returned to its original theme only after every possible permutation had been exhausted. Or folk sex, a far more traditional approach, obsessed with historical accuracy, but usually continued way beyond the point where it ceased to be entertaining. Until one or both of the main protagonists were dead. Or jazz folk sex, a combination of both, or traditional performance obsessed with historical accuracy that usually continued way beyond the point where it ceased to be entertaining, but enlivened at unexpected moments by the sudden introduction of a tenor saxophone. But everything is commodified now, everything is commodified, isn't it? It's sold out. And I have a lot of sympathy for the under 40s who've grown up thinking that the free market is a logical, normal doctrine, thinking that everything should be up for sale and that they're customers in everything. And everything is up for sale. Education, health, forest and national parks with the fracking, everything's up for sale. And everything is a consumer-customer relationship, transaction with you at the centre. But further education, for example, was not supposed to be a transaction which increased the cash value of the consumer in the job marketplace. Further education was supposed to be an opportunity to participate, ideally without charge, in a quest to enlarge the global storehouse of human understanding, admittedly whilst drinking heavily subsidised alcohol and losing your virginity in a building named after Nelson Mandela. But everything's up for sale now, everything's about the customer, the consumer. And the best example, I think, of this is TripAdvisor, which seems to work on the internet like an echo chamber for the insane demands of people who think everything is now about them. I have a 9-year-old boy, he's a massive Doctor Who fan. But his favourite Doctor Who thing is not the multi-billion-pound exhibition in Cardiff. It's a tiny cellar in the bottom of a house in the square of the market town of Bromyard in Herefordshire, and this cramped, dark cellar, so about 2 days a week, it's full of the owner's personal collection of Doctor Who memorabilia, displayed all randomly, props and costumes and games and scripts. It's called the Time Machine Doctor Who Museum. There's a picture of a TARDIS on all the posters. It says the Time Machine Doctor Who Museum, and it's quite clearly an entirely Doctor Who-centric exhibit. But there is a 1-star review of this Doctor Who museum on TripAdvisor, and it says, the Time Machine Doctor Who Museum has very limited appeal, except for Doctor Who fans. We were in there in 25 minutes, and that was after going round twice. They went round twice, yeah? They went round once and couldn't believe how little non-Doctor Who stuff there was in the Doctor Who museum. So they went around again in case they'd missed a diorama of the life of Isambard Kingdom Brunel, or a film of the mating cycle of the Asian wasp. It's a Doctor Who museum. You can't complain. There was too much Doctor Who stuff in the Doctor Who museum. It wasn't aimed at you. Not everything is about you. Reminds me of an elderly relative who, on having gone to see Andrew Lloyd Webber's Cats, complained to me afterwards that she hadn't been expecting it all to be just about cats. And a person under 40 came up to me after a gig, and he said to me, I didn't really enjoy that, to be honest. And I said, I don't know what you expect me to do about it. You just paid to see me, and I am me. But we've turned away, it would seem to me, from the wider world, and we're all looking inwards into ourselves, into our own borders. You have to pay for everything now. Nothing comes for free, except the last U2 album. Whether you wanted it or not, you know, horrible virus. And I don't really know what I'm supposed to say to you now, because you all live in a digital hall of reflecting surfaces, don't you, made of YouTubes and Facebooks and Twitters and Snapchats and Instagrams and WhatsApps and selfies. And you're the kind of people who were run over by a bus because you crossed the road whilst consulting a bus timetable app. I don't know what I'm supposed to say to you now. And they say you shouldn't keep dolphins in concrete tanks because the endless sound of their own sonar bouncing back at them eventually drives them mad, like someone locked in an aluminium-lined cell listening to a loop of the entire back catalogue of Jean-Michel Jarre. And that's you, is that you're the mental dolphins of now. Self-obsessed, narcissistic, inward-looking people with no attention spans, throwing yourselves fatally out of your own tank in the self-inflicted wound of Brexit. And I don't know what I'm supposed to say to you now. And is it any wonder you've gone mad, all of you, because you've all got cameras on you all the time in your phones. You see something interesting, you don't look at it, you interpose yourself between it and your camera and take a picture of yourself over and over and over again. Why? Surely you know what your own face looks like by now. And your entire online digital history, preserved forever, is just a succession of images of your own face, obscuring things that are more interesting than your own face. Here's me at the Grand Canyon, here's me at Stonehenge, here's me with Paul Hollywood. And I don't know what I'm supposed to say to you now, because there's nothing that I can possibly say that is as interesting as the moment-by-moment ongoing documentation of your own lives. And when I look at this painting.
David Friedrich's 1818 expressionist masterpiece, Wander Above a Sea of Fog. I see a man, like me, 198 years ago, looking out into the world and trying to make sense of it and his own place in it, rather than using it as a backdrop for his own narcissism. But this is you now.
Top time, you guys